Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to the talks today. I'm sure you're all really big TED fans, just like me, and that's why I want to speak to you about something that is probably, this is my opinion, one of the biggest challenges facing our society, and that is the fact that I even need to have a talk about bringing social studies back as one of the 4 main core subjects, that this conversation even needs to be had. If you're wondering, yes, the title of my presentation is a play on the Justin Timberlake song, and kind of like that. And by the way, I'm going to make like thousands of corny jokes. If you could laugh, that would be great. Okay. So basically, I'm going to start with a quote. It's kind of cliche, kind of common, but you've probably heard history described in this way before, that those that don't study it are doomed to repeat it. In my own opinion, I think it's a very poor way to look at history. It almost like scares you into like, you need to learn this and you're going to make mistakes. Well, we're humans, we're going to make mistakes no matter what. So it's kind of foolish to think that we can stop making those mistakes completely. Because if we did, we'd probably make some more brand new ones. A much better way to look at history, in my own view, I can't take credit for it. A podcast show host with a guy named Dan Carlin, I'm familiar with him, he has a show called Hardcore History. And he looks at all different types of topics. And he said that humans are born into a TV series, basically, known as the human experience. You're born into it, say, let's say season 6. Okay, most of you are what, late 90s babies probably? You're born in say season, so say that's like season 6. Okay? And you're in season 6 and you knew nothing about seasons 1 through 5. You'd get a little confused. Why is this person angry at this person? Why is this person arguing with that person? Why did they break up? Why did they throw something at this person? It would get super confusing. I would not want to be born in The Walking Dead in season 6 if I had no idea what happened in seasons 1 through 5. To say the least, it would probably be a little terrifying. And that human experience is so important, and the truth is, it's kind of going by the wayside. In our society today, there's a disappointing lack of emphasis on history and social studies in general. In a system of government like ours, it's kind of common agreement that you need to have some kind of basic knowledge of how our system works, our story, and where we're headed, or even where we are in the first place. The founders kind of counted on that when they established their government. And the best way to ensure that our society remains strong, moves forward, and more importantly evolves, is to give students a solid base of knowledge in social studies and history. Without that, we're really creating a group of people that, well, don't know their own stories or were in season 5 or 6 and have no idea where they're at or where they want to go. I'm going to leave those up there and let you digest those for a second. This is my 4th year teaching. I was lucky enough to get a job right out of college. And it doesn't make me an expert in anything. I'm still young, very inexperienced, but I've noticed a few things. The first thing is, students in social studies, they really have a love for it or an apathy. They either come to my room and they're like, oh my God, Mr. D, I can't wait to learn more. Like, I want to know more, I want to know more. That's the easy part. The apathy part, in my opinion, is actually a good thing too. Because it's not like some of the other content areas, no offense, math, that students come in there and like, oh my God, I can't do this, I'm going to have a breakdown. Social studies is great because it's just apathy. I don't really see a lot of hate for the content area. So I don't got to break through a brick wall entirely. It's really just a little bit of, hey, check this out. And so that apathy is easier to turn than hate. And it's the one content area where you can always interject yourself into the story because it's all of our stories, it's the human experience. And I can always find at least one unit or one subject where students can find their place and where the passion comes out. Now the consequence of uninformed citizens can be seen everywhere. You know, you flick on the TV, you can see it. You look at studies like this, I'm not going to read the slide to you. You can all see that. And you can kind of digest that material as you want. The consequences can be seen anywhere of uninformed citizens for lack of social studies. At your dinner table, this past Thanksgiving, with your family members, the 2 places you're never supposed to go: religion and politics. But where does it always go? Religion and politics. And some of the things you can see are maybe a little terrifying. Or maybe they're enlightening. I don't know. Every tip is probably different. But misinformed citizens really struggle to debate constructively topics because they don't understand the system that they're placing themselves in. They don't understand how it works, where it's going, where they even want to go. And the other side of that is, as you can see in the voter turnouts, we have some of the lowest voter turnouts in all of the world, all the developed world. There's that apathy I was talking about. You'd rather just avoid the whole thing than to look silly. It'd be much easier just to walk away from it and viewpoint. And some people choose to do that because they don't have a solid basis of social studies. But at the bottom, you can see misinformed voters. You know, one of the reasons that I think presidents have become more powerful in the last 60, 70 years is because, well, we have a lack of understanding of how everything's supposed to mesh and work together. And that's why we really need to bring social studies back. And the first thing I discovered when I got into teaching is that if New York State or the Department of Education, from the top down, if they value a content, if they think it's important, if they want students to learn it, if it's important knowledge that they think students should have, they give a test on it, and they usually conjure up images like that. Or, as one of my colleagues calls it, a celebration of knowledge, which they usually look at as a dad joke and they roll their eyes and want to leave the room. But ever since the Cold War, you've had education from the top down shifted towards math and science. We want the next big bomb. We want the next big military technology. We want to move ahead of the Soviets. There really was a massive shift that way in education. Then you get No Child Left Behind, and you get Race to the Top in the 2000s. This shifts it more towards ELA. And then science kind of got pushed to the wayside a little bit, even though it's making a bit of a comeback lately. So now we're really looking at math and ELA being the main focus of education. And the Common Core exams that you see in New York State and across this country in the last eight or so years, that's really driven the final nail in the coffin for social studies. And I'll explain why in just a second. So here's where we're at with testing. In grades 3 through 12, we're going to look at a snapshot of a student's life from 3 through 12. Students can take 6 exams in science, 2 of which are optional. They can take 7 in English, none of those are optional. Oops, sorry. 9 in math, 2 of those being optional. Really at the middle school and the elementary level, in grades 3 through 8, you're taking a New York State Common Core test every single year in math or ELA. Every year. Science, I believe, has kind of one where it pops up in the elementary. Social studies has none. I don't know if anybody knows the number of social studies exams you take in grades 3 through 12. I'm going to venture a guess. It's 2. 2. A little more credit than that. It's 2. But you only need one of those to graduate. And your first exam you take is not until 10th grade. And you don't need that test to graduate. There used to be exams from 5th and 8th grade. Those were done away with in 2009 and 2010 due to budget cuts and funding. That kind of says a lot. Now, I want to be very, very clear. Testing is not the best way to assess knowledge, nor is it the best thing to do for students. I really don't believe that. I think it's a middle-of-the-road assessment tool. There's much better ways to find out what students know or for them to prove what they know. But it says a lot about where the focus is from the top down. It shows us what the government values, where the Department of Education values, and where they want their money and their resources centered. So if cuts come down, social studies is one of the first four core subjects to take a hit, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. So, I have some colleagues that say, well, Nick, that's fantastic. That's wonderful that you don't have to tolerate tests at the end of the year, you can do more freedom. I totally agree with that. But as I said, it shows where the focus is, and we're not focused on the social studies at all. One of the best ways you can see that is you can go online and check out a school report card. Every school district in New York State has a report card. And if you look, there's tons of different data for each year you can have on those report cards. The first thing you see under enrollment data, 3 through 8 ELA math assessment, 3 through 8, ELA assessment and math assessment. The first things you see. You can go dig through everything and find the social studies data, but it kind of becomes a bit of a headache on this site because it's a little confusing. So, teachers at the elementary level, let me start by saying elementary teachers, salt of the earth. I'm actually engaged in one, so she's looking at me right now. So let's say elementary teachers, salt of the earth. They worked so hard, I could not do their job. They have a much more challenging job than myself. But what is happening to them, they're kind of put in this box. They have to hit these math and ELA assessments. Their students are taking both at the end of the year. Where is their focus going to be? Their school report cards riding on that. Their jobs riding on that in a lot of cases. Of course social studies are going to be put in the corner. Second to that is science. Science is also kind of put in that corner right along with social studies. And so students aren't really getting that intensive immersement in social studies until 7th grade in a lot of places, or 8th grade. By that time, it's kind of too late. They're going to miss so much content. They're going to miss so much important information that it's really setting us back quite a way. I actually went and spoke to a lot of elementary teachers. And that's one great thing about education is you are immersed with colleagues and constantly talking about this stuff. And it wasn't a surprise to me that when I sent out almost 100 surveys, I only got 21 back. That's because elementary teachers are so busy, look at the survey and go, I really don't have time for this as much as I would like to talk about it. So I asked elementary teachers, which of the core subjects do you feel or you find that you spend the least amount of time on? Out of 21 answers that I only got back, 17 were social studies. In second place, wasn't surprised to see 4 science. But what speaks the most here, 0 for ELA and 0 for math. That's because teachers at the elementary level are feeling that intense pressure to have a good school report card, to have the grades go up, have the test grades go up. They feel that pressure every day, and I could not imagine living with that pressure. And so I give them a ton of credit for even getting to social studies at all. So we've kind of seen these consequences of what uninformed citizenry is, and we're doing very little to correct that. I think social studies, let me rephrase that. I firmly believe that social studies is the main content to make us better people. And I'm going to get to that part a little bit. You'll notice that each of these bubbles are different sizes and different colors. The green ones are the things that social studies, I believe, can firmly teach better than any other content area. The ones that are orange have a lot of overlap between the contents. So I'm going to focus mainly on the green ones, content. It's really important that there's just some things in history that you should understand. When I was growing up, the Civil War was taught to me that it was fought over states' rights. You've probably heard that before. But yet no one in the academic community, no professors, no PhDs argue that the Civil War was fought over states' rights. The cause was slavery in the Civil War. But yet I was taught that at a lower level for all of those years. And so that messed up my understanding of seasons 1 through 5 of the human experience and my understanding of where I was now in season 6. That completely colored my view. And when I got to college and I began studying and examining things right here at Geneseo, I was like, wow. But how many people don't get that experience? That don't have that content? There's so many of them. It teaches the ability to discuss and debate, which is very, very important. Constructively, I think political conversations nowadays kind of involve in shouting matches, and social studies can certainly do that. It helps us understand our political system. A Carnegie Corporation study in the early 2000s found that students who are immersed in social studies, who are very into it, have higher grades in it, are more likely to serve in public office. They're more likely to go on and donate to charities, be involved with charities, be more active members of their community, do a lot of good in their community. I don't think that surprises anybody, but if we're not emphasizing that content area, are we losing those people? Isn't our society losing those people that push us forward and our leaders? But number one, and it's the thing in the middle, the social studies and the study of it makes us better humans. It makes us better people at the end of the day. I'm going to explain kind of why that is. It's the examination of humans and our story, which is the story of all of us. Is to understand why things are the way they are, where we're at in that human series of life. And there's been a lot of studies done on how social studies teaches empathy to young people, especially at the lower grade levels. How they can learn to sympathize and put themselves in someone else's shoes. And all of a sudden, elementary teachers, this work right here, Davis, Yeager, and Foster, they found that by teaching perspectives, different views of history through certain groups of people's eyes, they found that it was a fascinating thing that their students all of a sudden wanted to interject themselves in the story any place they could. They wanted to understand people's struggles. They then became even kinder to their classmates, began to sympathize with classmates more. And it was kind of a fascinating study. And I can spend a whole TED talk on that, but that's available for you if you want to go look at it. And so there's a lot of examples of that. And I see that in my classroom every day. And it's the most wonderful thing when you see students gravitate towards someone's struggle, towards somebody's role in history, and they want to be a part of it. And I don't think there's any experience that I've ever felt that kind of gets you that way. Some examples of that, you can really make great compelling lessons. One of which that I do is the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis, probably one of the scariest times in U.S. history, okay? And I asked students to put themselves in the role as President Kennedy's ex-con candidate, and they have to make decisions each round, getting different sets of primary source evidence, and that's probably the scariest learning target I've ever given 8th grade students in my life. They can prevent nuclear war. Needless to say that they didn't prevent nuclear war in all cases. Some of them did, though. Some of them did. So to bring social studies back, this is an important way. Frame it in the right sense. keep pressure on the government in social studies. Right now we're at the C3 framework, and we're tied in with the inquiry learning right now, working up the arcs of inquiry. The bottom arc of that is we're supposed to teach content specifications. The top arc is big overarching questions, big overarching themes. And that's important, but what I'm finding is students don't have the bottom arc. They don't have the content. And so it's really hard for them to get up the ladder and answer these big questions that teachers are starting to ask of them. Another thing you can do to bring social studies back is in your districts where your eventually that you're part of, ask school boards, what are you doing in social studies curriculum? Are you doing anything different? Are you trying to bring the content area back? Are you trying to add new research to that? And one of the great things Geneseo does here is they have a Geneseo History Teachers Day. And teachers from all over the area, we had about 60 this year, come back and they discuss with college professors new ways to look at history. I know that sounds weird that there's a cutting edge of history, but there really is. There are new ways to look at history. There's new theories out there. And they can take that stuff and bring it right back to their classroom. And I come to that every year that I possibly can, and it really does a great and wonderful thing. Also, go ask your children's teachers. Ask teachers in the district, what are you doing differently? There's tons of things you can do. Another thing in the classroom, though, that probably is the most important is, as teachers, we have to frame social studies the right way. This is a great way to do that. Another great way to do that, ask the right questions. We do a unit where I ask students, should the United States become an empire in 8th grade? That's a pretty heavy question. And we frame it in the context of the 1890s, early 1900s, the United States, and start to look at other territories and go, I don't know about this. I play stuff like the Imperial March when they come in the room from Star Wars, and what is this? We're the bad guys? We're going to become the empire? So it tricks them a little bit. But they get about 15 primary and secondary sources, and they act as U.S. senators, and they have to get up there and argue, hey, should we become an empire? Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. And by doing that, they come to life. They get very, very excited. One of my other colleagues does the great stock market game, and every day for the first 10 minutes of class, students come in throughout the 20s, and they look on the board, and there's the stock prices, and they can invest fake money, or take that money out, or sell the stock or the share to one of their classmates. And you see looks on their faces when it begins to go down and the stock market begins to crash. They absolutely freak out. But it really shows that social studies is this area that just for all this time that we've kind of left by the wayside. It's become the content area in the corner. Science is moving towards it. It's getting over there, while math and ELA are out front. And we're doing our students a massive disservice. The final way you can bring social studies back, ask for solid electives in your districts. We just proposed a new one, the World Wars class. Okay, it's not going to involve tanks and blitzkrieg and everything. There's going to be a lot of interesting perspectives in there. In a district the size of Holley, where I'm very proud to be from, and I plan to spend my entire career there, it's a little small town about 50 minutes north of here. We have a class size of about 80 kids. And in a matter of 3 days, in grades 10 through 12, we had over 60 students sign up for the World Wars class. We had to open new sections because the interest level is so high. It would be co-taught between myself and a couple other of my colleagues. You do things like that, and you say to yourself, wow, students are interested in history. They want this stuff. But the focus from the top is not in social studies, it's other places. And we need to bring social studies back to that. The consequences of not bringing social studies back are so grave and terrifying that I'd rather not just think about them. But the cold hard truth is, I do think about them. It terrifies me. A bunch of people growing up not knowing their story, not knowing the story of the human experience, not understanding where we are, or if they want to go anywhere at all. But the most terrifying thing is creating people that not only don't know that, but that don't care. The best way to make them care or have them care is to bring social studies back. Thank you for your time today. I can take questions now, actually, if you have any. This is like the most awkward part always. Yeah.
So do you feel it's more of like a top-down change that needs to occur, or bottom-up, grassroots sort of thing?
Top-down would be very nice.
Yeah.
That would be the dream, but until social studies people get better lobbyists, I don't think that would happen. So my solutions were all bottom-up. As you can see, I don't see the top-down approach change happening as much as I would like it to happen, but I do think the change can come in small districts. My district back home very, very friendly to what I do, and they're very supportive. I was just texting my principal today saying, you know, we don't need to bring social studies back to Holley because it's already there. So you can make a huge impact on your local level by just asking questions and talking to the right people. Absolutely. It's just like the 8th grade classroom or something. That's perfectly fine. All right. I guess no more questions we can.
Awesome. Thank you.